I talk facing away from the dead. They replace me with the change in my pocket, a penny that is yet to be invented. You have to know how to cut a throat on the way to cutting a throat. After sleeping on a mattress made from 2 garbage bags of clothes, I became content with the small gestures of plantation fires. Playing with couch ashes, I realized how weird the universe was. It exists in so many places, so many random things. It interrupts me when I'm trying to dream. Like your clay correspondence, Lord. To be transparent, I have 20 books next to a bullet, like an old man giving advice at the beginning of a revolution. I've really done it, Lord. Explored the mumbles of my mind, explored what's naturally there, and I found no brainwashing. I found Africa, Lord. I have a future. It takes place in the diasporic South. I have morning possessions, modern militancy, windows to the South. I will walk on a missile for food. I guess you will not want to flower for a few years, Lord. Will I be tied face to face with the country I murdered? Merge with us, Lord. Forgive the jug music I play for myself. One floor beneath my hand, my hands are on different floors. My hands are on different floors leading a decadent prayer circle. My old metal versus the new metal. My old metal versus a pool of meandering imperialist faces. A multiculturalism of sorts. The dead replaced me with a comedian's chest cavity instead of a chest cavity held tight. It takes a violent middleman for me to talk to myself. Stories that travel through other people's stories. Stories that travel through fasting tricksters. A song about a song. A hemisphere about a hemisphere. Stories that travel through a conquered poet. I wore a machete all winter and no one asked me what it meant. I read 1,000 books in front of the world. My mother remembers Africa, Lord. She killed on behalf of you, Lord. What I do is fight poems on associative surfaces, recreations of a governor's desk, ruling class art of utility, playing fine the sociopathic bureaucrat. A day white people scared even easier. TV in a basket next to a ceramic baby, wearing ceramic armor, musket progeny fantasizing through the art of the poor, their trendy latches locked before God, black art hunted down like a dog, all above a thorny stem. Where among these old minds do you locate yourself, trigger man? Hand over my friends, Lord. Lord, I think I'm going to die in the war. Unelected white people in my small house, like a blues song of no spiritual effect, or dollhouse H-bomb, a pony show near dead bodies, apartheid weddings that go right, apartheid white people who give birth to mathematicians, the spiritual continuity of barracks and police stations, the chemical interpretation of a Sunday trip to church, church smells in their pockets, a river mistaken for a talking river, no autobiography outside of small personal victories of violence and drug use, made in the image of God's trinkets, what white abolitionists confided in their children about, foxhole Friday nights, most of life is mute, chemical assurances that they will switch from black artists to white artists, black guy to white guy, black worker to white worker. I think about you cautiously, Lord, in the same way I think about my childhood. Steady my hand against history and I will bring you a trance, Lord. Comedian points out the planter's field to the priest. King Sugarcane, King Cotton, King Revolutionary, the Bible is central. Modes of shallow introduction, introducing an unlisted planter class, speaking about fever and balance sheets and reassuring the masses that we can figure out our fathers later. A priest took my mother lightly, Lord, stood in front of the parishioners re-raveling fantasies about black art. Priest reading confidently before I broke him and broke his parallel. After today, I've never been a poet before. A little brother watches his big brother's friends. They lean rifles on sheltered walls. They agree with me and call it literature. It's a simple matter, this revolution thing. To really lie to no one, to keep nothing godlike, to write a poem for God. Yeah. To sputter along, what I dug about the art, or what I dig about our art, is the motion of all things really belonging to us. If there's no piece of this reality that I can't take and make into whatever I want in order to make a point, in order to bring people to themselves, to bring people to the truth. And so that's what I ran them up with. All right. Now some regular poems. Oh, shit.
This is the first time I've seen you read off a page.
Yeah, is it?
That's
Man.
good.
I think I'm gonna put that poem in the brain. No, that shit got legs.
Yeah,
man.
it does.
Yeah, it got
Yeah, it
legs. It does. Tastes good in the mouth. Has a juice to it. The first cigarette made that parking lot my bedside. The second cigarette made that parking lot my front pocket. Next, I held the witness like a newborn, no half-hearted. Brittle teeth by my art, watch how we talk in depopulated circles. You caught me, said the hangman to the condemned. Caught me red-handed, but the hangman's hand kept moving nevertheless. Biting flags eastbound and other familiar sound effects of revolutionary recall us a landless fire. The night train agrees that these are my keys. I'm just admiring your fabric, Lord. My art is rational, therefore my life is in danger. Traveling up the tap this time and it looks like water was never here. Just jail noise and the jail noise that politicians speak. Hey, this world is weak. Lost its graffiti too many times. I'll tell the witness, all characters are in motion regardless of what that day did to your disposition. I also left that piece of good news in the ashtray next to my nickname. You know every room has a kitchen in it. Every life has company to feed. Every room has a rumble in the corner. 8th grade heroin in my hand, along with pieces of an uncle. A purgatory grease fire got its work. The phone rings in 1988. An epoch begins when a mother hangs up. This is not writing poems. This is wishing carloads well. Here comes the tap water whistling past our heads. Institution tile under brake pedals. Matching white watches painted on palms to smash and grab recollections. People who are related by ballot. Hot plate failures fishing for proletarians. The matchstick that is a draft card by the time the loaner finishes sweeping the train. Also related by ballot, underpaved streets hanging like strips of film in thin air. I miss the carpentry more than the religion. I tore the tattoo out my uncle's picture and lent it to my friends. One left cross at a time, black mine behind my back. They say the child would do better upside down. The child's cake parties in the precinct. Mainstream tune playing upside down. T-shirt with their face on it, printed on the cop's thumb. 28 hours later, a headrest will do. The city brain feels like clientele. I dozed on the back of a bus and woke in the mind of a 3-story man. Hey, God wants you here with this crowbar in your hand. All of the world is a 3rd floor. Seasons invent themselves, but we invent the underground. Cause and effect, nothing but a casual venue I once played. He decided not to kill me like giving loose change. They don't teeter now, tall man. I was nobody at point blank range. Nobody, finally again. Lung first I felt, a love, then a rule, then a hate. Dance moves within murder attempts within dance moves. Hey, lean back and be celebrated by small people, he said. The clothes on my life teacher needed new patches. And sit back and disrespect it all. I've given up on counter-revolution, I said. Well, then here's your weapon, little thing. And that's our father you writing graffiti on. Horn players beat him up and everyone left the altercation a better person. Knowing what you know now, would you still have written fortunes on the bottom of church shoes and put them back on the rack? How does everyone think that a rich guy is their twin? Along with other tantrums is my cue. Fortune teller half sleeps while talking about a mirror treading all over the posters in my childhood room and how cold calculation mothers nothing in a vision of chess pieces and chains, he said. Then, my friend, you will have fear. And then you will have form. If you reverse the card any farther, you will run over all the scenes in the back of your mind. I never cared for teachers, just the patterns of their fainting spells. Fainting spells induced by wall art, and all that to say propaganda is courage. The price sticker hides my tattoo. I treasure my problem with the world. My mother becomes from Brooklyn first thing in the morning. That's a proverb around these parts. A proverb or peasant entrance password. Writing short notes to famous Europeans on the back of postcards with ransom requests. They reply with a newsreel or a cigarette announcement. I can't tell the difference. Noble dollars, then you die inside, but on the inside. They call it sleeping deeper than your stalker. The stalker's all that badge makes you. Says a great spirit dressed in the bloody rags tuxedos became. Meanwhile, my punch is feared by no one. Proud of yourself, I ask my fret hand. porch lights is what they call our guns. I've seen this house in a dream. Now I believe a trumpet was the first possessed object to fly. Hey, keep going. She cheers. The draft in the room becomes a toddler. A toddler obsessed with an altar. The altar becomes a runaway train. Yeah, I got 1,000 paintings like these cascading down my skinny arm. Dictionaries piled up to the window bars, a reminder to the population that your blanket can work with or against you. Human reef. We'll be a big human reef with concepts that finally gain a metaphysical nature and they will swim around our beautiful pole. And we stopped being flashbacks and stopped being 3 different people, then I was alone. The pistol 1 city away. And one of the drug triangles lines runs through my head. I tapped the bottle twice and considered the dead refreshed. And don't you want to rest your bravery? Don't you want to be a coward for a little bit? Back and forth to a panic attack. With no problems, nor fears, the man gets a facial expression. Finally, a Friday finally goes his way. His life is finally talked about happening in his head. I can't possess the body of a hermit. I must be the last of his smoke now, running the other way with 3 blocks of alley tucked under my arm. Hey, you ever see a man get to the bottom of his soul in the car ride down a missing cousin street? Half step to the right. I took the whole car outside of history. Half step to the right. A whole pack of wolves stepped to my left. Road markers, what I call the light bulb we have for the sun. A whole civilization might slink to the sink or a chain gang shuffling next to a sucker, also known as the long look in the mirror. Stack of money starts talking from 4 cities away. I'm off to make a church bell out of a bank window. And kitchens meant more to the masses back in the day, and before that we had no internet. There's somewhere in America the prison bus is running on time. You're going to lose your job before a revolution hits. Somewhere I won't be home for breakfast. Everyone out here now knows my name, and I won't be turned against for at least 4 months. The cop in the picket line is a hard-working rookie. The sign in my hands is getting more and more laughs. It says the picket line got cops in it. I can take care of those windows for you if you want, but someone else got to go inside the gas tank. It was clear to me that rich people had talked too much this year. Hey, why don't you go ahead and throw down that marble park bench everyone's looking up at you, get the Romans out of your mind. Maybe a good night's sleep would have changed the last 20 years of my life. Playing the instruments like punching the wall, what would you have me do? Replace the population? Give brotherhood back to the winter? Stop smoking cigarettes with the barely dead? They listen in on the Sabbath. Police called the police. There was a white candlestick beneath my detention. I ruined the soup again, thought the judge, as he took off his pilgrim robe behind the white people's door and more. I didn't get lucky, I got what was coming to me, he toast. And fight me back, the man said. Of course to himself, washing windows with a will to live, 10 count on his left shoulder, enjoying the bright brand new light with our party goers, both supernatural and supernaturally down there. What the fuck is this elevator traveling side to side? Like 1,000 bitter Polaroid pictures that you actually try to eat. All the furniture on this street nailed to the cement. Cheap furniture, but we have commitment. This morning an essay opens a conversation between enemies. Why? Because you control every grain of processed sugar between here and the poor man's border. Because in the tin can on my left shoulder, I can hear the engines of deindustrialization. You should get into painting, tell lies more deeply. Hey, this month I'm rooting for the trader. Carting cement to my pillow, man. Here we will build them high again. Not talking much. And once you climb up the organ pipe to our apartment floor, I'm high again. Calling everything church. Singing along to a courtyard, thanks to a horn player's holy pastime. Shit, I'm just putting a real jacket on it, Talk about a real 5 years. Keep memories like these in the pocket next to the toll receipt. Hey, that man lost a wager with the God of good causes. Stood up for himself a little too late, maybe too early. I can still see 20 angles of his jaw zigzagging through the cold world of deindustrialization. There's an art to it. I would tell my closest friends that. Shit. You can tell by my tires that not everybody who's driven with me is still alive. And also that I like my drinks neat bottled and in a bus stop. And also that we drown in precinct paper, department store floor plans and applications to the moon. We can change the color of our snot from gifted to heart attack and tell you about ashes, but where are all these angels coming from smelling like the cigarette that fails? And why is the man on the safe side of these headlights freezing up? You got nothing to say at my funeral, I'll speak on your behalf. Heroin in my smile. Mountain made a flatland robbery, among some things on my mind. The last store run in the name of shared afterlife, but Friday to the 5th, I'm a tall tale on earth. But here's to that angel that never appeared to America, and a night of dog paddle, and a batch of hangovers looking for a home. A liar wouldn't have lived this long. And that's my humor when fences speak. I want a pair of rambling dice. They got unique tempers and young souls that say, shut up about our city. And here title months crash over a coast while the streets teeth are in pieces. There's reservoir art on the faces of stragglers. It's sad news from back home. We have to grow up on his behalf. They stumble back to a car full of last stand. The truth is still, but still lit. Hey, Mr. Street would be proud of me. I'm a mural man. I'm almost organized. You remember when my lungs would wake up last? Walking all morning if it was working. Shit, I'm 3 decades home. And reservoir art is all out to sea. And I'm 2,000 miles from my first fight. Maybe no one really survived. Maybe I wrote my first poem for no reason. Yeah. know what I'm saying? In constant conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, too much of San Francisco was not there in the first place. This dream requires more condemned Africans, or put another way, state violence rises down. Hey, or still life is just getting warmed up. Or army life is looking for a new church and ignored all other suggestions. Or folktale writers have not made up their minds as to who's going to be their friends. Man, this is the worst downtown yet. And I brought a cigarette everywhere. I've taken many a walk to the back of a bus that led on out the back of a storyteller's prison sentence, then on out the back of slave scars, but this is my comeback phase. I left my watch on the public bathroom sink and took the toilet with me. Threw it at the first bus I saw, eating single mothers half alive. It flew through the bus line number and on out the front of the White House. Hopefully you find comfort downtown, but if not, we brought you enough cigarette filters to make a decent winter coat. Special species of handshake lets all know who's king and what's the lifespan of uniform cloth. Hey, this coffin needs to quit acting like those are birds singing. Rusty nails have no wings, have no voice other than that of a white world dying. Their book pages in the gas pump catchy, isn't it? The way 3 nooses is the rule, or the way potato sack masks go so well with radio codes, or the way condemned Africans fought their way back to the ocean, only to find waves made of 1920s burnt up piano parts, European backdoor deals, and red flowers for widows who spent all day in the sun mumbling in San Francisco. Red flowers, but what's the color of a doctor visit? There are book titles in the streets. Hey, book titles like, Hero, You Make a Better Zero, or Hey, Fur Coat Lady, The President is Dead, or Pay Me Back in Children, or They Hung Up Their Bodies in Their Own Museums, and other book titles pulled from a drum solo. Run here, hero. Lie at the hiding place. All the bullets in 10 precincts know where to go. There's no heaven nor any other good idea in the sky. Politics means that people did it and people do it. I understand that when in San Francisco and other places that was never really there. I bet this ocean thinks it's an ocean, but it's not. It's just 60 Mission Street. Shit, I don't know who's king. King of thin things. You know, like America, I'm proud to deserve to die. I'm going to eat my dinner extra slow tonight in this police state candy dispenser you all call the neighborhood. No set of manners goes unpunished. Never mind the murderers insomnia or the tea kettle preparing everyone for police honor. The capitalists dropped 10 tons of barbed wire on my Tuesday shift. We shot back at their chimpanzee pilot for the sport. Contractors already smoked 3 cigars, only 1 hour into my court appearance shift. Supervisor likes the smell, says it reminds him of when he ran the street. And all I remember is we shot back. A gated puppet dances alone. Bars and jigs says I'm the happy one of Legion. Meanwhile, kids commit childhood behind us wooden plastic joints. Wire dodgers under this silly puppet dancing for white heaven. Like weapon is a jacket and precinct holds Friday hostage, we go through a fossil jaw and see a judge. The tunnel at the end of the light. And I'll sleep until woke by dry cereal and surrender. This holding cell only needs a giant panhandler's palm to shake us coin men around. Breaking my fingers for my sister's bill collectors. A garage casket open, all third world parallels kill open. Man, breaking my lungs for my sister's rent. I'm a sculptor of construction dust. I miss cigarettes by mid-morning. I miss Hennessy by sundown. I miss murder by inches. $5 bills cherish my days outside, always behind. There's no concentration in this courtroom. Just a bunch of B+ students living out their nightmares. How do I plead with a straight face? Hey, 2 blocks up is a reoccurring clip. Along with slavery's paraphernalia, along with an ordinary panhandler, along with ethnic parade history, along with the ethnic parade, along with 13 graduates. Let's talk about the fact that 4 dead children later, I still don't have a problem beating you up in front of everybody. Let's talk about the fact that money is death. Hey, down on my last $5 is what I call this shoot. 10 o'clock political education is what I call this dream. And I got the job is what I call this blues. 2 days later is what I call the clip. Capitalists eating to the world is blurry to them. And these streets made of saliva. Some people made of saliva too. They usually got on a uniform. While the crazy man spins round and round, trying to make a record out of this mass production jungle. Hey, maybe I'll join them, count cash and cry. And these streets is made of saliva and white sheets are worn by a building in which kids are supposed to learn how to read well. White sheets on the highway too. Another mirror needs their head on a pipe. One down is just one down. But you tell all this to the masses and your teacher will pipeline you. They told me I was jewelry. So they told me I was jungle. Well, maybe not jungle, more like 50 machine guns planted in the ground. Hey, it's raining faces again in California. What does it say about heaven? So what does it say about the people you killed? Waiting lines got so exhausted, a million minds dropped all these faces at once. And if the fastest can read the lips of a giant talking in his sleep, we might as well make our demands a prison letter. Today was born the most important trigger finger in the world. Today I begun counting down the pages between now and a pile of books by a tunnel. Chicago is going to walk out of Chicago one day. Babies that drag street signs like old toys. Today the most important letter left prison. Babies are laughing flags like faces that disappeared. Maybe y'all doing look now. You know, these streets is made of saliva. And we raised half-full glasses to the basements that meant nothing. And the working poor who lived here. We get shot. You get white sheets on California, where the kitchen table like to talk as much as the walls and romance on the porch consists of hard residing. I mean, this picture characters talk spit. You know that they hard to kill. The kitchen table knows this. The porch is almost convinced that one down is just one down. And this town is coming to town. A circus watching itself. Half distracted, half suicidal, thrilled children dressed as cops. And thrilled children preaching and policing and intaking and hiring and snatching your money. I mean, this town's coming to town with tough trademarks to follow today. I watched capitalism walk on water and people play dead so that they could be part of a miracle. How to buy teeth goes this country. There's a cow's mouth on the flag. You know, peculiar notepad holds street life dear, but the writer's not here. So you're talking somewhere talking his tombstones about the good old days. Or splashing reborn water on his latest face. Or wondering how his old gun is doing in the afterlife. Man, wondering how much death trap is in those gas station houses. Man, it gotta be $1 million a day on this concrete island. New engine in the moon wire never goes down. I mean, 72 straight hours of night, at least according to everyone's posture around here. 8:30 in the morning is really 30 minutes of closing. The city shuts down for a sleepy rat race. Elevators shoe shuffle to the nearest heaven, laughing with rats the whole way up. There's scabs everywhere, in puddles of city, in concentrated schools, in TV-lit warm rooms. You know the light reveals military fatigue when it hits just right on the ties that are wrapped around the necks of lazy white guys. Empire is too easy, baby. Tearing at the walls all summer if you feel like it. Let's wait for a target to move and shooting back. Running for a tree line made of freeway shit. Wisdom says against a war machine on Tuesday, you stand no chance, but may we be the last poor men to play it safe. Cow's mouth on the flag. A politician raises his hand, and the crowd shows their teeth. An oligarch raises his hand, little girls are not safe outside. You are all high, depressed, and comrades in function. After 15 minutes of closing in the city has survived another black rebellion. We're just paying dues by trash fires, not just anybody cassette. And don't you love how deadly things whisper in a moment? People kill like feathers fall with everybody screaming inside. See, the writer knows that death is not a matter of dignity, rather humor. In a house that smells like roach races or nuclear percentages on torn stalls, I mean, here life never was. It's just lazy matches and manic inhumanity, hands rushing away from life towards stars. What are we doing here? Surviving, for no reason in particular, because nobody gone far today, nobody go far tomorrow. Trust me, hell and heaven cannot count. Strange gardens where secondhand clothes play and concrete wishes to be human so that it could be accountable. Where they find you drenched, and drains wish to be human so that they could be worthy arms for you to die in. Greet them all, grandson. Prepare for the day when every child is kind, and don't say we ghosts didn't write you a poem. See, don't say we didn't dig your life. Remember the shotgun by the cold rack that everybody in the house knows how to use. And remember the tightrope made of needles walking between driveways. Man-made best friends. Go ahead, grandson, tune the street again. Never mind, this country kills musicians first. At broken neck night, scar neck life, if these walls could write lyrics, they say, what's your angle, angel eyes? 30, 50 rounds pass by on the street with no daughters, this street has no son. Just young prisoners of war in a racist city that means to make capital. And we know so much. We know it all. We were stood against walls. Who's on the third cross around here? Cow's mouth, salivating over the street. And that is the story why we hang the teeth. In conclusion, when a drummer is present, they are God. I am not an I. I'm a black communist. I'm writing my new tattoo out on bus station glass, trying to make tattoos all afternoon. I mean, trying to talk myself into seeing the decade through. I must really be the devil's front man, you know, staring at an empty bus that I imagine in fact carries paintings of people. The man drunk behind the wheel has to choose between a black and white toddler after school in America on a California street that don't need a name nor California. And nobody on the street has a job and therefore no one is there. I colored my oppressor's gun and dance floor for him in the same day. The joke began. The walk on the bus seats is fine by me as long as I get to the front. The joke concluded. And Tuesday is rotten soup or downhill entertainment or commotion in the ashtray. Or the day that jail quotas get filled, the day that the planet plays flat. And maybe a capitalist sets stadium seats on fire and calls it economic progress. Communist has plenty of time to finish his cigarette and lie to his boss. A killer lying down in front of a tank, I have a small statue built in my chest and also an anchor upside down in the air. Worried about the walls, I forgot that the ceiling was closing in on me too. That's my take on my alcoholism. I'm hunched over a meal I ate 5 years ago. That's a take on my look on my face. You know, Curse got a little, took another step up the staircase and for a second forgot all occupants of the world beginning with this house. I'm an action hero of one street proportion. Rap music is the way to count blessings. The 80s were better than its fiction. I have a piece of fence meshed through my skull. I'll be half-eaten my entire life. Always walking beside myself with a gun in my head and another one pointing at passers-by. And half of me, all of you walking in and out of myself, but I'm always happy to see you with a miraculous route you took through my threat. Honest pay, a knife in my arm. Honest pay in my chest, a broken lock on the monument. Tell you the truth, I forget what my hands look like, what I did with them, or what kind of third eye the handcuffs cut into my wrist. All right, thank you.
You want to ask questions? No. Or just process?
No. Yes. Was I see anything?
I'm curious about that the first poem, right? So, like, what's your process of, like, here's the poem, it's fixed on the page, and now I know it belongs within me, like, that it should rest within my brain, that I can bring it out that way.
Well, I think there's kind of like layers of, it's kind of like, I don't know, layers of communalism. And it's kind of like a few different species of that. If a poem feels like communal immediately with everybody breathing, then I'll go with that. If a poem feels communal with people who have come before me, then I'll go with that. If the poem is kind of like an inside joke between me and me, I don't go with that. And that's pretty much but those that feel like they don't, you know, I'm almost in a way, though I seem like I seem heavy-handed with image and pushing wordplay and patterns of logic and all this. It's actually like a kind of like a gentle touch, meant in my mind anyway. So it's kind of like actually like the poems that actually get written more gently, or at least internally gently, usually are ones that, you know, I dig saying. And some poems are just kind of like fun to say. And then some poems are just like a challenge to say, you know, see if you can, you know, make some kind of sense with it within the confines of time. Because, you know, like in your head, it's just like, time fluctuates, you know, and all this type of thing. So the challenge of putting it into an observable universe with actual physical laws, you actually, like, in a way, you reveal yourself to the difficulty. Some poems I just take on just because it will really require me to be like super not pretentious. And it required me to not be a persona in order to move through them, you know.
Yeah, so I'm hearing too around this, the creation of the poem, an acknowledgement of it, not just belonging to the poem, but belonging to the community. And so, like, it becomes this embodied.
I mean, almost like belonging to the human record in a non-grandiose way.
And yet there's this check of the ego too in that, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
The more I can check it, the better it is, really.
Yeah, I'm really curious about your mode of performance. It seems like sometimes you're surprising yourself. And I just wonder, clearly you know these poems inside and out. I just wonder how much you are actually surprising yourself, or how much this is a rehearsed performance.
None of this rehearsed. It's kind of it's almost like a meditation. A meditation that, like, it's, you know, it's funny, like, the meditation itself is never the same. Like I would like to, you know, I mean, how you kind of visualize it in an abstract way is, this is from this kind of expansiveness, I can just catch words and energy and just throw them together and create these little personalities along the way, or these little shades of myself along the way. But actually the meditation itself can fluctuate. Sometimes it really is almost like the distance between poem, facilitator, like, or decision maker, internal decision maker, and output really shrinks. And then it's almost like the poem is saying itself. But sometimes I am just kind of like, it's a more conscious navigation, you know, or it'll really be the sum of 1,000 decisions, even down to, like, you know, word for word. I might just start making decisions. The object, though, is just to, like, when it comes to that type of space, almost to be like as emotionally double jointed as possible, so that I can make a move, or I can reset myself on any word. Any word, I can completely reset myself and just take whatever is now available. Because I could misunderstand the energy, you know? So I could be in a place that's really heated, but I myself am not interpreting it properly, you know? Because I'm like, oh, I've been here before. And you know, or I've been meaning to poke back around in this thing. But maybe that's not what's happening at all. And actually, like this time, I just felt super subdued, you know? And I was like, well, I could try to muscle out of here, you know what I mean? Or I can see what's available in it. And there were little moments when actually there were points where I could have took off, but I let it go and was like, I don't know. Let's see what happens if we keep poking around, you know, because maybe that's really what's happening, you know, this type of thing. I don't know, you know, I actually don't know why I still find the poems hilarious, you know. I really don't know. Maybe it is kind of like you get to a certain success of meditation, where you just really like, but it is almost like, imagine like just waking up in a word, waking up in a line, like, or waking up with amnesia. It's like waking up not knowing who you are, what the fuck is going on, and then there's a thought. It's just like, oh, that's nice, you know, this type of thing. But it's just like, it's the perpetual, really like reset. That's what I try to put my mind in a position to do. I think I'm lucky though. Lucky that I can say poems and still find them interesting.
I had a question about
My brother.
I feel like
He's a plant.
stage. I feel like sometimes in your poems, right, the city would be either the narrator in a way, or it would be just the backdrop. I was wondering, is there a certain region or a couple regions that really speak to you, or do you just pull from the whole city?
Yeah, man, you know, I'm a creature of habit, you know. And I think it's kind of natural. Like, you know, we just attract, because we define ourselves the same, you know what I mean? Like, we'll have a relationship with somebody that is like one of the ways in which we define ourselves. Like, I know I'm cool because of, you know, how I deal with so-and-so, you know, or I know I'm strong because how I was walking through here, you know. So it's like we define ourselves through specific places. So it's natural, places and people. So it's natural to like constantly trying to process them on the page. I don't really try to fight that. What I just do, like when I find myself at least on a page in a familiar place, that's when I just look to push the wordplay more. So it's like, okay, if I have kind of like, if the brunt of that relationship I've already taken a few times, well now I can really poke around and see what kind of music I can make within it. And the same thing actually goes for wordplay too, because it's just like as you go along, you just kind of like invent your own set of devices. You know, so I say like, Chicago is gonna walk out of Chicago. You know, this town is coming to town. You know, so that's like a little trick, you know, to double things up, or the challenge of doubling up a word in a way that really reveals a lot or has a whole lot of implications jammed into it, you know. So I'm also kind of like, so if I get to that point, if I end up with there again, like I'm gonna push it even harder. If I find myself in familiar devices of dealing with language, that too, you know. I mean, but yeah, man, my whole trip, man, like this kind of species of poem I be on now, all started with the objective of not talking from a first person thing. Even though autobiography is always going to work itself in certain ways, but to just like to drop that first person camera angle was like my only mission. And it's just pick people up, pick objects up, you know. But again, you know, it's not like it's just like, this is the voice of a 10-year-old, 6, you know what I mean? Like it's not even, it's subtle. It's just like a little psychic shift, you know what I mean? But it is a shift. Yeah. I'll say more people than places though.
We have time for one more?
Another plan.
If you had to choose between Eduardo Galeano and Roque Dalton
Oh.
in terms of poetry, realness, and who was more pertinent or more imperative to the struggle of the people in Latin America, who would you choose?
You know, this is the thing. Roque Dalton was like my favorite poet for many, many moons. But I taught Eduardo Galeano to like people who didn't know how to read, like Mirrors. It's like the perfect book for teaching people how to read, you know, and read in the context of real history and analysis. So that's just kind of like, that depends on what the mission of the day is. But if you put a gun in my head and pick one, man, I just gotta go with Roque, because he's just kind of like a flashier soul, man. You know, this cat really like, I mean, come on, bro. He was gonna get put to death in a political prison, in a like earthquake, knocked the wall down, and he escaped and shit. It's like, come on, you know what I'm saying? You gotta go with Roque, man. You know, but that's just personal. My personal preference.
What a question to end on. All right, let's thank our poet.